Welcome, trainers, to a journey down memory lane, where we play through each Pokemon generation and talk about our experiences, starting with Generation 1, the Kanto region. My name is Chris, I'm the normal and apparently pretty mediocre trainer, and I'm playing Pokemon Blue. I'm also joined by my two fellow co-hosts.
My name is Sean, I'm the Pokemon Master, and I'm playing Pokemon Red.
And my name is Dustin, I'm the Pokemon Hunter, and I'm playing Pokemon Yellow, and we are known as the Trainer Trio.
In our last episode, we acquired the Earth Badge and beat the big baddie himself, Giovanni. Since then, we participated in a round-robin battle on Pokemon Showdown to see who really had the best Pokemon team.
All right, so as you guys may all know, I am no longer undefeated. Very, very sad. Going now into this round of round robin, the ultimate top ranking person will get their first choice of a starter in the next generation. I have already clinched that, but right now the fight is really heating up between Dustin and Chris to see who gets the second choice of a starter. The first battle was between me and Chris, and this was a very, very exciting battle. As usual, this battle eventually came down to the last Pokemon for both of us.
30% chance. That's why Body Slam is one of the best moves in Gen 1. That 30% is just huge. Is it the 1 in 256? Can you see that, Dustin? How it says on turn 12, like in Gen 1 moves?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Oh, the para!
So let's compute the math with what percentage it takes to do that plus a paralyze on the same turn.
And miss, no! Oh my god.
No! You may still get the upper hand on me here. We'll have to see.
Oh, I woke up! Yes! It changes everything, Chris. You're kind of screwed now.
Whoa, come on, one more. 1v1. That's intense.
That's right, I changed up his moveset.
Oh, can I see your moveset? Oh, I can only see the moves you've used.
Thunder Wave.
Wow, that was hella close. Good job, Chris.
Dang, all these matches go down to the wire now.
I had my Dragonair, which was paralyzed, and it was going up against Chris's Sandslash, which was poisoned. And basically, I just needed not to get paralyzed and for a blizzard to hit, and I would have won. But, of course, I got paralyzed, and Chris was able to win that battle. At this point now, Chris and Dustin are now tied for their records.
All I gotta say is you and I have a very Lakers-Celtics relationship going on here. It always goes to Game 7. It always goes to the end, but you win a majority of them. But I've squeaked out a couple.
I think you've always squeaked out. Oh, yeah, two now, so.
Very Lakers.
All right. I mean, he has won a couple, unfortunately. Eat at me at night, but that's fine. Moving on to the next match. This was now between me and Dustin. Unfortunately, this battle was kind of really one-sided. Dustin made some questionable decisions with his Pokemon moves choices.
I always forget that Karate Chop is a high critical hit move. Dustin, that was...
Don't say anything. I'm not good at matchups.
A Pikachu versus a Nidoqueen.
We're going for it.
Oh, are you going to feel so much happier when you don't have a Pikachu on your team next gen?
Yeah, that'll be quite nice.
Oh, that Nidoqueen wrecked your team. I guess in Gen 2, you can have a Dark type or something, but in Gen 1, there's just nothing to go up against Psychics.
Oh, it's lost. I don't do anything. I got demolished.
Yeah, I kind of really just ran along with that one.
I mean, it definitely shows I'm more of a Pokemon hunter, capturing the Pokemon, than a Pokemon trainer, battling it out.
By that logic, you should be pretty bad, and I should be able to beat you, but I don't know why that doesn't happen.
I tend to just use the numbers instead of the strats.
Yeah, now going on to probably the most exciting game, just because of the stakes. We're going into the Dustin versus Chris match. And so just to remind everyone, at this point in time, both Dustin and Chris are now 5 and 10. So the winner of this game is going to be able to take a 1-game lead on our final championship and may be that much closer to picking their starter second. So yeah, right now you're both tied. So this is a huge game.
Oh yeah, Sean. His Machamp has Earthquake, and he refused to use it against your Nidoqueen.
Oh, dang. And then, like, why are you sending a Machamp out against a Pokemon's a Psychic type, an Executor?
Is it cheating to ask about type effectiveness here?
Yeah. Hey, the more games we play, the more maybe I'll learn. Who knows?
Oh, no. Okay. Ice is...
Yes. You have
Sean,
to just find out.
Oh my god. Okay, transparency. I don't care. I'll say it out loud. I'm going between Earthquake, which is a ground move, or Rock Slide, which is a rock move. I don't know which one is super effective against ice. Okay.
Just find out.
Is it ground or is it rock? Alright, go for it. Was it rock?
Yeah, you should have went Rock Slide. At the same time, I don't think it would have killed Cloyster either.
Oh, let's go.
That was a crit.
I'm gonna do this again. Oh, smart.
Oh, not the Hyper Beam miss.
Yes, 2 misses on the 90% chance.
Are you kidding me? That hurts. Oh, I needed one turn. Nessie was fast asleep 1, 2, 3, 4 turns, and then woke up on the 5th. That hurts.
Let's do this. Hypno, you gotta carry me home.
This is the most painful battle of my life.
Let's go. Hypno took out all but one Pokemon, right?
Yeah, all my Pokemon were asleep for 4 to 5 turns.
That was a game.
This was a very tipsy, topsy type of match where it really looked like Chris was gonna be able to run away with this, but then Dustin threw out his Hypno, who eventually was able to get, I believe, 4 of Chris's 6 Pokemon to fall asleep. Hypno was able, in the end, took out all of Chris's Pokemon, all 6 with 1 Hypno. And so I'm sure Chris was getting very frustrated. I know Hypno was also paralyzed, and as I was saying, most of Chris's Pokemon were asleep. So a lot of the turns just kind of went where neither Pokemon was doing anything. But in the end, Dustin was able to pull out a very clutch and massive victory with his Hypno, who, again, as I stated, fainted all 6 of Chris's Pokemon.
I would like to mention at this point, I was down to 2 Pokemon, which is Hypno and a Scyther, and Chris still had his full party up.
Anything you want to say, Chris?
I'd like to say I can't wait until Generation 2 when waking up means you can attack.
And so this is the first time in our showdowns that no one was able to actually sweep. And so we all got 1 win, we all got 1 loss. And now to let everyone know where our final stats are going into the last battle, and that battle will happen after we talk about the Elite Four and complete that. So my record right now is 13-3, Dustin is 6-10, and Chris is 5-11. So for Chris to have any chance for victory, he's going to have to either sweep and beat both me and Dustin this next round, or he's going to have to beat Dustin and hope that Dustin loses to me, and then we're going to have to do a tiebreaker.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. It's a very high-stakes match to see who gets that second star Pokemon pick.
I kind of like this Pokemon Showdown that we've done here, because at the very beginning, Sean was overpowered, he was winning them all. Dustin and I were trading back and forth, and now we've gotten to the point where everyone has a chance to beat everyone. It's kind of exciting.
It just took, 8 matches, 8 gyms before we finally reach a point where everyone has an even matchup. Going into just a recap of the Pokemon stats from our last episode. Currently, I have the most time played at 39 hours and 8 minutes, followed by Chris at 27 hours, 54 minutes, and Sean at 27 hours and 8 minutes. So I have a more than 10 hour leap on the two of you. And then for Pokédex entries, I have 108, Chris has 86, and Sean has a measly 34. And finally, the average party levels, which I have the highest too, just goes to show how many hours I have at an average of 49. Chris has 45.4, and Sean has 45. So even with 5 or 4 level point advantage on all of my Pokemon, I still couldn't really sweep this last round.
Thank you, Dustin. In this episode, we're going to cover every single battle in the Elite Four, including a potential 5th battle. Everything that we're going to do after the Elite Four, including going over our Pokemon party, checking out the Cerulean Cave, and encountering the last Pokemon that you could possibly see, Pokemon 150, Mewtwo.
I'm looking forward to it. It's been a fun game so far, and I am really looking forward to playing the Johto region next. Otherwise, as always, I have some notes right before we head into the Elite Four, just from our last episode. Just in between, I was trying to level up Pokemon, trying to evolve them just to boost my Pokédex, and one of my Pokemon fainted, but had enough levels to actually evolve by the end of that battle. So after the battle, it evolved, and it revived itself and gained a small bit of health, which I think this might only be a Gen 1 thing, because I remember before, if a Pokemon would evolve and be at the level of evolving and faint, it just wouldn't evolve. So I thought that was quite fascinating.
I guess what must be happening there is it's fainted, but then when it levels up, it gains a little bit of HP, and so it goes from 0 to 2, and it just automatically revives you. That's my guess.
Dang, that'd be play for a very interesting Nuzlocke mechanic.
Otherwise, I think that's my only major note that I've had in between, so we can head straight into the Elite Four.
Did you guys do any training before the Elite Four?
That's what I was going to ask you guys. How did you approach training for the Elite Four?
It was quite brutal on my end. I was trying to figure out where to go. I did some Googling. The place where I did the most training was the Pokemon Mansion on Cinnabar Island, just because it had some evolved Pokemon where you can get a good experience yield. Initially, I was training in Victory Road, but some of the Pokemon there that you can fight are just level 20, so I wasn't making any progress. It was quite frustrating.
Dustin, how did you approach training?
Maybe this could be seen as cheating. I did go into the Elite Four to train for the Elite Four. I made sure not to beat the Elite Four until I had the final team I want. We'll talk about this later, but I did add only one new addition to my Pokemon team, and they were quite a low level, so I had to make sure I had to level them up to the rest of my team going to the Elite Four. So I was only training mainly that one Pokemon going in.
Yeah, I did the same thing that Dustin did. I was at first doing what you were doing, Chris, in Victory Road, and then exactly how you described it. There's so many level 20s that sucked. So I looked up online the best way to train for Elite Four in the first generation, and the consensus answer was to train with the Elite Four to go against the Elite Four.
I do want to chime in real quick, because I know Chris threw a hand motion there. We never had this in the rules that we couldn't train against the Elite Four to battle the Elite Four, so maybe that's something we'll have to introduce for our next generation if we really want to take this on.
Well, question. Did you guys purposely lose to the Elite Four, or were you guys accidentally coming close to winning, or did you enter the Hall of Fame early? What did you guys do?
I was purposefully losing. I did get very close to the end, and that was when I was like, all right, I could have beat the Elite Four there. Now it's time to do the real Elite Four battle.
I was doing somewhat similar. I just wasn't using any healing items while I was going through the Elite Four, and so I think the furthest I got was up to Lance, and I knew if I was using healing items, I probably could have won earlier, but I wanted Dragonite. I logged in, I fought the Elite Four 9 times before I finished.
Oh, I did not log that.
Did you guys have a level floor before going into the Elite Four? Like you wanted all your Pokemon to be level 50 or 52 or anything?
Obviously, going into this, I didn't know what level Dragonair evolved into Dragonite. And so I really thought it was just 50. And so that was the training montage I did. I got to level 50. It didn't evolve. I got mad. I looked up online to see what level it evolves. And it evolves at 55, which is an insanely high level, especially in Gen 1, where most of the wild Pokemon you fight aren't even level 40. After I found that out, my goal was just to get my Dragonair to level 55. The rest of my Pokemon, awesome, whatever level they got to, just from the training along the way. I will say when I did this 9th time going into the Elite Four, I still had a Dragonair. And so in this first battle, I think most of my Pokemon were level 50-ish. I can't remember off the top of my head, but they did get some of them. I think going into this, my Nidoqueen was like level 55 just because she was very strong and would take down a lot of Pokemon when she was the last one remaining on my team. Did you guys have any level like requirements or ideas going into Elite Four where you guys wanted to be at?
For me, I just made sure that my new Pokemon, that we'll get to later, had to be at least the same level as all my other Pokemon. And at the time, I believe going into it, my highest level Pokemon when I started training was like level 54. So that's just a good example of where I was starting at.
I made level 50 my floor, so I trained all my Pokemon up to 50, except Nessie the Lapras, and I was getting very frustrated. So I had 7 rare candies remaining, so I fed 6 of them to Nessie, and she became level 55. So it was a bunch of 50s and 155.
And I was going into the Elite Four.
Yeah, that was going in.
All right, so let's get into our first Elite Four member, Lorelei. So her trainer type is supposed to be kind of like the icy Pokemon type.
I can go over her team real quickly. It looks like it's the same between red and blue and yellow. So she has a Dugong level 54, a Cloyster level 53, Slowbro level 54, Jinx level 56, and finally Lapras level 56. And one note, Lorelei has 2 super potions per Pokemon and will use them 50% of the time if their HP falls below 20%. So pretty embarrassing that they're still using super potions in the Elite Four.
You mentioned our Pokemon team party, and there's one Pokemon the first time I saw, which was Jinx. A terrifying Pokemon to look at. I don't think we even talked about also how Mr. Mime, I know both Sean and I had in the party, but we never also mentioned how Mr. Mime and Jinx are like human-like Pokemon. It's just creepy to like actually have them in your party.
They really are super creepy, and like, I don't know, I liked having Mr. Mime on my team for that very short time just because in later Pokemon generations, I eventually found a shiny Mr. Mime. And so I thought this is probably the one generation Mr. Mime's actually good in. So use him for a little bit. But before I found that shiny, I used to always hate Mr. Mime because he's so unsettling. And then even Jinx, also very just exactly what Dustin touched upon. It's like a humanoid type Pokemon that's obviously not human and creepy.
I believe Pokemon Red and Blue are the only games where Jinx still has her original black background, and then Pokemon Yellow and onward, she has the purple background.
Yep. Controversy.
Yeah, they changed it for reasons that I personally can't fathom why they would, but anyways.
Going into the actual battle, so I do like how each Elite Four has kind of like a room that's, their own gym. So for Lorelei, she had water in her room. I was thinking if I were on the Elite Four, this would probably be my setting because I love water Pokemon. I would like to be the water type trainer. This would be it. Do you guys have like a special type if you were to be an Elite Four member? What type of room you would like?
Chris would just be a normal room.
My normal room, it would just have white walls and it would be very plain. I'm the normal trainer.
I would, of course, do a fire. I love fire Pokemon. That would be my Elite Four or gym specialization.
Going into the actual battle, this one was relatively easy for me. This was where I got the most use out of Pikachu, actually, because it's mainly water. So I threw out Pikachu, and Pikachu was able to take out most of the Pokemon until her last one, Lapras, where Lapras used a Blizzard and took out my Pikachu. So then I am using Victory Bell to deal the final blow to Lapras. So I finished the first Elite Four member with only 1 Pokemon down.
Chris, how was your time with Lorelei?
Lorelei was pretty easy. I was a little disappointed. I used my Jolteon, Ave, and my notes are that Ave took down Dugong with 2 Thunderbolts, took down Cloyster with a crit Thunderbolt, took down Slowbro with a regular Thunderbolt. Jinx almost took down Ave, but with 3 Thunderbolts, we were able to take Jinx down. And then from there, it was pretty easy. Lapras did take down Ave, but then I brought out Purdy for the Hyper Beam, just going with the OP move. And so I lost 1 Pokemon to Lorelei. Otherwise, she was pretty easy.
It's funny how our electric Pokemon can take on this gym just on their own.
Yeah, I guess I will go into just some general notes of the 9 times I fought Lorelei. Some things, I always hated her Lapras because her Lapras is just very strong Pokemon. And Dugong is just annoying because of rest. And so when I was trying to train my weaker Pokemon, it would always keep on resting when I would get its HP down. So just frustrating. But going into this 9th try, again, I was going in for at least just Lorelei, going in with the expectation of being another training round because I didn't know if I would get my Dragonair to a high enough level. But anyways, I just led with my Electabuzz, who took out all of her Dugong, Cloyster, and Slowbro pretty easily just with Thunder Punches. And then when she sent out Jinx, I switched to my Blastoise and was able to take her down with a couple digs. And then when she went to Lapras, I tried to take her down with my Electabuzz, but I got crit on the Blizzard, so Electabuzz went down, and then I just took her down again with my Blastoise using more digs.
So did we all lose exactly one Pokemon?
One electric Pokemon, to be specific.
Not bad. 2 notes I had on Lorelei as well. 1, I think it's pretty disappointing in the Elite Four that they don't have teams of 6. I kind of understand that they want that to be more for only the biggest, best trainer, but I think every Elite Four member should have a full team of 6 Pokemon. Make it a little fair. And 2, I don't know if you guys tried this out, but the water in her room is surfable. You can actually surf around her room. I definitely did that.
Oh, wow. Did not know that. Do you get any encounters in there?
No, it's not programmed to have any encounters. You can also surf on the statue in her room. For some reason, statues are programmed the same as water tiles, so you can actually surf on every single one of those at the gym or at the Elite Four rooms.
Lorelei also is one of the only Elite Four members that doesn't have 2 of the same Pokemon, which we'll see going later on, which I also thought was kind of sad going into the first generation. I know at this point they still don't have that much Pokemon variety. It is kind of annoying that she is supposed to be kind of the Ice-type Elite Four member, but she still has some Pokemon that aren't Ice-type, like Slowbro, I think in this case is an Ice-type, right?
It's not. She has 2 Psychic types, which is pretty strong in this generation.
Although you saying that, Sean, Jinx and Slowbro do not have any psychic damaging moves. Slowbro does have Amnesia. However, in Pokemon Yellow, Slowbro does have Psychic, which makes a lot more sense. You have a little bit of a harder time there, Dustin. I mentioned that the levels are the same between Red, Blue, and Yellow. However, Yellow, the Pokemon moves are a little stronger. Like, the Lapras has Hydro Pump and Blizzard, Body Slam and Confuse Ray, so it's a little stronger.
Moving into the second member, Bruno, the fighting type Elite Four member, I believe.
I don't even understand what his theming is here. He's got some offensive, some defensive fighting Pokemon, some rock ground type Pokemon. He's got an Onix at level 53, a Hitmonchan at level 55, a Hitmonlee at level 55, another Onix at level 56, and his master Pokemon Machamp at level 58. And Bruno has 2 X-Defense per Pokemon, using them randomly 25% of the time.
Wait, I have a question. Are the levels the same between us and Pokemon Yellow?
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, just some of the moves are different, but the levels are the exact same, which is completely different from the gym leaders, where Dustin was having a hard time with level 50s starting from the 5th gym.
All right, so how was everyone's encounter with Elite Four member Bruno?
Can I go first this time? I didn't take 1 hit.
Wow.
So Nessie the Lapras takes down Onix with Surf, and then I switch out to Greg the Executor, which takes down Hitmonlee and Hitmonchan with Psychic. I bring back in Nessie to take down Onix again with Surf, and then I bring Greg back in again to take down Machamp with Psychic. It was quite easy and fun.
For me, for this battle, I sent Cloyster for this one, just because he did start with Onix, and just kept switching between using Surf and Aurora Beam. I was just able to take him out just with the 1 Pokemon, Cloyster. I did keep 1 note, though, of when they use Hitmonlee, and Hitmonlee has an attack called High Jump Attack, and it missed. And there's a funny text that popped up after it missed saying that Hitmonlee kept going and crashed. So I thought that was kind of funny.
Yep, that's the risk and reward of using High Jump Kick. It's still a move in the current generations as well. That's a funny mechanic because you don't really think of many moves, punishing the Pokemon for missing the move much more than that move. So my notes, generally speaking, Bruno was when I was going through the Elite Four where I'd get the most XP for Dragonair. Definitely, if you look at my notes, I would always complain when his Hitmonchan would come out and hit a critical Ice Punch, which happened at least 2 or 3 times on him, and it wouldn't fate him, but do enough damage to get my Dragonair down, where I have to switch out and not be able to train him too much. But anyways, going into this, the time where I won the Elite Four, I leveled Dragonair until I got it to level 51, and I knew I had 4 rare candies. So I was like, yes, I could finally get to 55, and that's when I decided, okay, this is the run to beat the Elite Four. And so basically, I used Dragonair until he got pretty low, and then I sent in my Blastoise to take down. It was, I think, his Hitmonlee and his Machamp that were left at that point. After I finished that fight, I used my 4 rare candies on my Dragonair, and I finally got me a Dragonite, and I was very excited.
How did it feel to get one of the hardest Pokemon to get in the game with Dragonite?
It felt very satisfying because I won't spoil too much, but he definitely does put his weight in, even though it's probably for the last 1% of this Pokemon run. I wouldn't say it's necessarily worth it because it, takes you all the way to the very end to evolve. And at this point, I only had, 3 more battles left in the game. So it's sad that it's such a high level to evolve because it's such a cool and strong Pokemon.
It's really hard to come about it because you can buy a Dratini at the game corner, or if you're lucky, find one at the Safari Zone. And then, like you said, from there, it evolves at 55. You got to be patient to raise this thing. So it's not a common or easy Pokemon to get in Red and Blue. Also, talking about Bruno here, why did they give him 2 Onixes? Onix is such a bad Pokemon with no special stat and a 4 times weakness to grass and water. So we all knew that we were going to one-shot this Pokemon. Onix makes sense as Brock's Pokemon because that's teaching you that you can't use physical moves against it. You have to find a special move to kind of whittle it down. On the Elite Four, though, this makes no sense.
When I was training against Bruno, what was very, very strange to me is I realized how effective Flareon is against his team. If I use a Fire Blast against an Onix, it fainted the Onix, which is a quad-resisted move from the Onix's part, which is just insane.
Yeah, it has no special stat whatsoever. Huge defense, but yeah, even a quad-resistant move will take it down.
And I thought this was a missed opportunity to include a Golem. Like, you don't see Golem one bit throughout your entire playthrough. So it would have been cool to see, like, a trailable Pokemon for Bruno here, because when we get to our next Elite Four member, they do have an evolution that you can only trade for, which we'll go into that, which is the 3rd member, Agatha, the Ghost/Poison type, which I feel like it should have really just been Ghosts, but they ran out of Ghost Pokemon. They only have 3 Ghost Pokemon in this game, so they had to fill in.
I like to believe that Agatha is more of a trainer of spooky creatures or something like that. You got bats, you got ghost Pokemon, you got big snakes. That's my theory there. But I think you're also right. There's one team of ghost Pokemon, one evolutionary line, so definitely ran out of that. Going into her Pokemon, Agatha has a Gengar level 56, a Golbat level 56. She goes down to a Haunter level 55, Arbok level 58, and her main Pokemon, another Gengar level 60. And then Agatha will switch her current Pokemon 7.8% of the time, fun enough. Additionally, she has 2 Super Potions per Pokemon. She will use that 42% of the time when their HP falls below 25%.
And going into Agatha, I enjoyed her probably the most in the Elite Four just because she does give more background information on the Pokemon world. She actually has a connection to Professor Oak, who they mentioned knowing each other like decades ago. Kind of lends some weight to maybe thinking like, hey, was Professor Oak a part of the Elite Four back in the day? Because we talked about earlier how there is a glitch that you can battle against Professor Oak's team, and he does have a pretty strong team, so just provides interesting backstory to this world.
Yeah, if you guys remember, was it last episode? I had mentioned that there's a theory that when you start the game and you see the Nidoran versus a Gengar, that was actually Professor Oak fighting Agatha in the championship round of the Elite Four.
I could totally see that being the case. Also, her little blurb at the beginning mentions that Oak is no longer strong or something like that. So I like to believe that she went the path of still battling and believes that's the one true path, where Oak took a break. He's retired now. He's the Pokemon professor.
And going into the battles, this one was very easy for me. Just like how I beat Chris, I just used Hypno. One attack each.
Wow, that kind of hurts.
Yeah, for me, I found out through my training that my Nidoqueen could literally solo them just using Earthquake and then Rock Slide against Golbat. But during this last time when I fought her, I wanted to get some levels for my Blastoise. So I led with him, took down, I think, the first Gengar, the Golbat, and then Haunter had made him fall asleep. So then I did some more switching until eventually I just went with Nidoqueen to finish it out with a couple Earthquakes.
I also used an Earthquake strategy. I have Sandy the Sandslash, which took down all of her poison Pokemon except Golbat with Earthquake. The only fun note was that her Arbok did paralyze Sandy, but didn't hurt me that much. And also her last Gengar used Dream Eater on the first turn, which was a little strange because my Sandy was paralyzed, not asleep, so we killed it with an Earthquake.
So we all beat Agatha, moving into the final member of the Elite Four, Lance, the Dragon-type trainer. And leading up to this, once when you enter his room, it just automatically walks you through this hallway, which was pretty cool, showing you that he is the leader of the Elite Four.
Right, this is our final battle. This is the fourth member of the Elite Four, so this has got to be a big deal.
Absolutely.
Lance is the Dragon Master, so like Agatha before him, dragons only have one line in the entire Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow, which is the Dragonair, Dratini, Dragonite line. But Lance has Gyarados, level 58, which is Water Flying, not Water Dragon. He has 2 Dragonairs, level 56, an Aerodactyl, level 60, which kind of looks like a dragon, and the big baddie, Dragonite, level 62, which, if you're not prepared for this Dragonite, it is going to be a little bit of a trouble.
Yeah, I'll just go into how my battle went. From my previous training, I knew he starts with a Gyarados, so I started with my Electabuzz just to take it one shot with a Thunder Punch. And then he sent out Aerodactyl, to which I sent out my Blastoise to take it down with a couple Surfs. And then when he went to Dragonair, I decided now would be the time to bust out my newly evolved Dragonite and see what he could do. My Dragonite knows Blizzard, and I was able to sweep the rest of his team just using Blizzard.
He should have done that strat against you.
Against me? What?
Yeah, he should have had Blizzard on his Dragonite and defeated your Dragonite with Blizzard. It would have taken it down.
It would have.
He's a bad Dragon Master if that's the case.
Yeah, because I think he went for a barrier with his Dragonite because his Dragonite was faster than mine. I was like, okay, whatever. Bye-bye.
When I faced against him, there was a lot of Hyper Beams that he used. I fought against the Gyarados first and used Victory Bell, but Hyper Beam took out Victory Bell, so I ended up switching to Cloyster, and then that's just where I am, like, running a rampage. Switching between Surf and Aurora Beam, even though it didn't deal too much to Gyarados, eventually whittle him down. And what was quite annoying was that he used Hyper Potion on 3 of his Pokemon during this, so I kept getting super close to wiping him out, and then he just used Hyper Potion to extend the battle. But for me, Cloyster was definitely one of the MVPs.
Did his Dragonite take you down with those Hyper Beams, or was it just everyone? Because it looks like... Oh, wow. His entire team knows Hyper Beam. I'm just looking at that right now.
Crazy.
Cloyster was very defense heavy, so Cloyster never went down to all these Hyper Beams.
In Pokemon Yellow, he actually has a pretty strong team there. His Dragonite knows Fire Blast, Thunder, Blizzard, and Hyper Beam. That is a pretty strong Dragonite versus what Sean and I faced, where it had Agility, Slam, Barrier, and Hyper Beam. Going into my battle with Lance, I actually prepared for this way in advance. I always keep in the back of my head that I'm going to have to fight some Dragonites, so I purposely got Nessie so that I can have an Ice-type Pokemon ready to defeat his dragons. So I actually started with Nessie for this battle, and of course he throws out Gyarados, which has a quad weakness to electricity. I had to switch back to Ave, which I used 1 Thunderbolt, took it down immediately because it has a 4 times weakness. After that, I brought Nessie back out, and it was able to take down every Pokemon with Blizzard, except Aerodactyl. I use Surf on that because it's weak to Water-type moves. But basically, if you have a Water-Ice Pokemon for this battle, It's just going to go down pretty easily.
And for the listeners, Ave is the Jolteon and Nessie is the Lapras.
They should know this by now. I've been saying that quite a bit. If you're starting on this episode today, go back to episode 0 and watch the whole podcast, please.
Tell him, Chris.
Don't worry. We'll wait. We'll pause until you come back here.
It'll be worth the wait.
Pause over. After you do beat Lance, he says, I hate to admit, but you are now a Pokemon Master, which made me feel very good. Until he says, you have one more challenger ahead. Apparently this is not an Elite 4, it is an Elite 5.
What a twist. I can only imagine the kids back in the 90s that didn't see this coming, because there's no mention of any champions or anything like that. They just talk about the Elite 4. And now you get one more battle.
And like throughout the whole game, when you finally see who the Pokemon League champion is, it's Blue. He's always, Blue for me, my rival. He's always been one step ahead, being every gym before you. And apparently at this point, he is the most powerful Pokemon trainer in the world, is what was mentioned.
He doesn't know about any of the other regions, it sounds like.
Before we even get into his team, I think that has to be one of the best twist that Pokemon has ever done. And of course, in Generation 1, you can make it happen because there's nothing to be expected. But the fact that your rival becomes the champion and becomes your final battle, I think that is one of the best final battles in the whole series of Pokemon. Definitely one of the best champions. And we'll have to see if anyone overtakes him after we play through some more games.
Yeah, I think it's definitely, especially what Chris was saying, no one kind of expected it this time. And so it is a great final battle. I know Chris says it's the best final battle. I think there's one final battle that tops it, but if we get that far, I will make mention of it.
And it's just funny how they keep the Elite Four mention after this generation and keep doing it up to like our most recent generations, which at this point, everyone already knows there's a champion. So you have to wonder why they just didn't make it Elite 5 at that point.
All right. You guys want to go over Blue or Poo Poo or Chris's team?
Yeah. Who wants to start us off then?
Sean, you started with a Squirtle. So in this case, Chris is going to have a Pidgeot level 61, an Alakazam level 59, a Rhydon level 61, a Gyarados level 61, an Arcanine level 63, and the final Pokemon, Venusaur, level 65. Me, on the other hand, starting with a Charmander, my differences are he has an Executor level 63 instead of that Gyarados, and he has a Blastoise level 65 instead of the Venusaur. And going down to Dustin's matchup, did Blue evolve his Eevee into Jolteon?
Jolteon, yep.
Then you faced off with a Sandslash level 61, an Alakazam level 59, an Executor level 61, a Cloyster level 61. He's stealing your Pokemon there. I'm sorry. A Ninetales level 63. And his final Pokemon, Jolteon, level 65, which doesn't seem that intimidating, but that's his big bad Pokemon. Whew, finally, someone has 6 Pokemon instead of everyone else that had 5. He also has a full restore per Pokemon. We'll use it only 12.5% of the time if their HP falls below 20%. So for all of those who have played Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green, where if you get it in red, he'll use it automatically, not the case in Gen 1. All right, that's a lot of me talking, so someone else go over their experiences.
In this battle, I did revive my fainted Pikachu. First, for Sandslash, I sent out Victory Bell, used Solar Beam to take out Sandslash, and then his Alakazam ended up taking out my Victory Bell, so I replaced Victory Bell with my previously fainted Pikachu, and Pikachu also fainted to Alakazam. So this was when I brought out my new Pokemon, the one I've been training up all the time, Aerodactyl. And I am using Takedown to finish Alakazam. From there, I am switching to Machamp. And Machamp kind of just took away his reins, basically. I have a bunch of different type of moves on Machamp. I end up giving Machamp Fire Blast. So that's how I took out the Executor. And he does have Earthquake, so I use that against Jolteon.
So did you struggle at all, or was this relatively easy for you?
I only had Victory Bell and Pikachu are the only 2 Pokemon that fainted, so that was it.
Congratulations, Dustin. You are now the Pokemon champion.
I think I'll jump in now about my experience. I started out with my Flareon. He started out with Pidgeot. At first, Pidgeot moved first, and it used a wing attack to get my Flareon down pretty low. I used a Body Slam, got it down pretty low. And so I should have used a quick attack to take down Pidgeot, but then it used Mirror Move and used my Body Slam back at me and faded my Flareon, which made me sad because I was hoping to get Flareon to the level to learn Flamethrower before I beat the Elite Four, but it did not reach that level when it fainted, so stuck with Ember, and I gave it Fire Blast, luckily. But anyways, I then went with my Kangaskhan, took out Pidgeot, and his Alakazam is pretty strong because it took down my Kangaskhan, and I was able to get it paralyzed when I sent out my Blastoise, and so because of that, I took it down, but it could have conceivably took down my Blastoise if it didn't get paralyzed. It could have probably took out most of my team because it was very strong and fast. Anyways, after I took down Alakazam, we went with Rhydon. I just used Surf with Blastoise, took it down. But at this point, my Blastoise was getting really low as well. He sent out Venusaur, to which I switched into my Dragonite. And Dragonite just kind of swept from there because he is so strong. And just a couple Blizzard and Hyper Beams to take down Venusaur, Arcanine, and Gyarados.
So it looks like it paid off. That Dragonite ended up being your MVP at the end.
He definitely was. Very much worth the wait.
Now, I feel bad for your rival because we share a name. It was pretty uncanny that his name actually happens to be Chris. That's quite funny.
I know. It was very nice beating him like I do beat you so many times.
Well, maybe Chris will get his revenge later on. We'll have to see.
All right, Chris, tell us about Poo Poo.
Poo Poo. Yeah, I forgot. That's what his grandfather named him. Isn't that quite crazy? So my battle against Poo Poo. So I started with Ave. For all of you who are unaware, Ave is Jolteon. Took down Pidgeot with one Thunderbolt. I was ready for that one. I always have an electric Pokemon ready to start against his Pidgeot. From there, he sent out Alakazam, and I decided to bring out Purdy with Hyper Beam, hoping that the physical move would be strong enough to take down Alakazam. And luckily, it just was. We were able to take down Alakazam with one Hyper Beam. From there, Poo Poo brought out Rhydon, so I brought out Nessie, one Surf, dead. He brings out Arcanine, one Surf, dead. So he brings out Executor. I bring out Char, my starter, which is now 13 levels under-leveled compared to his Executor. And I use Fire Blast, and it crits, and it still doesn't kill Executor. This is a super effective move that got another boost for critical hit that gets 1.5 times power for being a stab move. So that's a 720 power move, and it still doesn't kill it. From there, he uses Dustin's strategy and puts me to sleep with his Hypnosis. At this point, I do something I haven't done yet. I used a Full Heal. I know.
Boo, shame him. Everyone shame him. Shame.
I was so frustrated because he has one Pokemon with full health left and one Pokemon in the red. And I have 6 Pokemon left. So I said, am I really going to wait 5 turns for him to wake up? So I use the Full Heal just to speed this up. And I use 1 Slash. Gets rid of Executor. Finally, we have Blastoise. And so I bring out Purdy, which is now 15 levels underneath his level 65 Blastoise. I use Thunder, which is what I taught him in this episode. And it actually got rid of 75% of Blastoise's health. And then from there, I use a Hyper Beam to become the champion of the Kanto Pokemon League.
Not only that, but we are now all the most powerful Pokemon trainers in the world. After you do beat your rival, he says, "What? My reign is over already? Not fair." And then Professor Oak comes in and he congratulates you on winning. And apparently the whole reason he came was he heard that Blue just beat the Elite Four. So I like to think that literally Blue just beat the Elite Four, contacted his grandpa. So his grandpa's very happy for him. And then he travels over, maybe takes 5 to 10 minutes. And then now there's already a new champion within the time it took him to contact his grandpa to him walking over there. So I thought that was actually kind of depressing.
I think the most depressing part is how he's like, "Oh, you disappoint me." That part is just rubbing salt in the wound.
He already forgets his name. He forgets his name is Poo Poo and then says he disappoints him? What a bad grandpa.
I mean, you kind of have to be disappointed because he's not even the champion for that long. Just think about it.
You don't tell your grandson that, though. You know?
So before credits, Professor Oak checks their Pokédex one last time, and to me he says that I even have the evolved forms of Pokemon Super. So he's very excited for me. Did you guys take down any notes of him recording your Pokédex?
He recorded my Pokédex and he told me, oh, you have enough Pokemon to get the item finder. Go back to the assistant. I forgot which city, but he says, go back, talk to my assistant in this city to get it. I'm just like, oh, that's not useful anymore.
My Pokedex rating was, I'm impressed. It must have been difficult to do. That wasn't that fun.
Moving into our Pokestats segment, we'll probably start with Sean, who had the lowest amount of playtime since we last mentioned our stats. So if you could just go over your time and Pokédex, and then we'll go into the parties afterwards.
So my Pokédex is 36. Pretty good. And then my time is 32 hours and 50 minutes.
All right, Chris?
All right. My Pokedex was 96 owned. And just because I'm looking at the final screen, it says that I saw 138, which means I'll have to take a look and see what 13 Pokemon I didn't see. But my playtime is 32 hours and 18 minutes. I clock in just under Sean.
Wow.
I can't clock in under that at all, just because my last playthrough, I was already at 39 hours. So, like usual, I spent another 10 hours in this segment. So, I ended at 49 hours and 30 minutes, and my Pokédex was at 112 Pokemon.
Was 112 the maximum you could get, or were there a few Pokemon you gave up on?
So, Chris, this was after the Elite Four. This is not after the endgame content, Chris. We will get to that at the end of this episode.
Of course, there's going to be more. Of course.
Of course. I mean, I can't end on 49 hours. That's not even 50 hours played for one game yet. Just to recap there, from the time it took us to beat Giovanni to being the Elite Four, it took Chris 4 hours and 24 minutes, Sean 5 hours and 42 minutes, and me 10 hours and 22 minutes. For the Pokédex, the number of Pokemon we captured since we last talked, Chris caught 10 Pokemon, I caught 4, and Sean caught 2. So Chris has been doing really well with the Pokédex in our last couple episodes. I think on average you've been capturing 10 or more new Pokemon every episode. And then let's go into the Pokemon parties, starting off with Sean again.
My team is, of course, everyone's favorite. Vulpix the Flareon at level 52. Queenie, the Nidoqueen, level 55. Madam, the Kangaskhan at level 53. Blue, the Blastoise at level 53. Lightyear, the Electabuzz at level 54. And Shenron, the Dragon Knight at level 55.
Weak is all I could say.
We'll see about that.
I think my Pokemon are weak because I didn't know we were allowed to challenge the Elite Four 9 times before we could become the champion.
You should have asked, Chris.
My final team was Nessie the Lapras at level 56, Greg the Executor at level 50, Ave the Jolteon at level 51, Purdy the Persian at level 51, Sandy the Sandslash at level 51, and Char the Charizard at level 50.
Wow, that's also very weak.
Yeah, you tried training at the Pokemon Mansion.
All right, I just recorded those, so I'll go through my levels. So I had Victory Bell, level 56, Aerodactyl, level 57, Pikachu, level 57, Machamp, which is named Ricky, level 58, Cloyster, level 61, and Hypno, level 61.
You may have the levels, but you haven't beaten me many times. You do have to have a Pikachu on your team, too, so I think it evens out.
Boys, I think I'm going to take the L on these final showdown battles.
Looking at our average Pokemon levels, I have the highest at 58.3, then Sean at 53.7, and Chris at 51.5. I gained the most average Pokemon levels at 9.3. Sean gained 8.7 levels, and Chris gained 6.1 levels since our last episode.
Sounds like you should have trained a little bit better, Chris.
I mean, I felt a little bit bad. My goal here was like at least try and get Aerodactyl, which I think started at level 30 before this run, up to level 55, because I knew Sean needed to get his Dragonair to 55 if he wanted to be Dragonite. And that was just my goal. It's like, alright, all my Pokemon needed to be 55 or higher, which I accomplished. Are you guys ready to head into our Kanto battles?
Our last one.
We'll take a quick break and we'll come back to tell you the results.
Da da da.
Welcome back. We just finished our last and final Kanto battle, where Sean, if you could explain the details.
All right, of course. So again, this was our last battle. So our records going into this battle is I was at 13-3, Dustin was at 6-10, and then Chris was at 5-11. As I've already said, the winner of these battles in first, second, and third place get to choose their starters for the next generation. I have already clinched the first spot, but the battle for second is well and alive all the way to the final battle. So going into these battles, Chris basically needs to sweep both me and Dustin in order to force what we've decided to be a winner-take-all Game 3 type match, where it would be another battle this round, a rematch between Dustin and Chris, should that need to happen. Going into the first battle, we started with me versus Chris.
In my head, too, I was like, I leveled up my Pokemon a bunch. Like, I imagine, like, maybe they'll be a little under-leveled compared to me. Like, getting them all level 50 is hard. I was so wrong.
You really thought I wasn't going to get a Dragonite?
That was my whole goal. Is like, I knew Sean's getting Dragonite, so I had to make sure my Pokemon levels were high.
Oh, Nessie.
Ooh, that was a good start right there. Chris already has the advantage.
No, not the seeing hitting.
Yeah, I can't wait till Gen 2 just because this sleep is too OP and it becomes not fun towards the end when you lean on a sleep team.
We'll have to modify the rules maybe going forward. We'll see.
This generation, because you wake up and you can't battle, it just makes it that much harder. I should have taught some grass moves to my Executor.
You really should have. Sleep may make you win.
Yeah, sleep's a good strat.
Yeah, that's why I can't beat you, Dustin. Oh.
Critical hit. Dang.
2 Pokemon down both sides. Ooh, wow. That's good. Very intense match so far.
Wow, can you believe Pin Missile actually did something?
That's insane, yeah.
Bug types.
Can't believe you have Pin Missile on Ave.
That was the last move I taught Ave before the Elite Four. It didn't come in handy at all, but it came in handy here.
And that's all that really matters, you know. We all knew we'd beat the Elite Four, but not each other. Good job, Chris. That was really good. Really good battle for both of you guys.
I think we're triangles right now where Sean can beat you, Dustin. I can beat Sean, and Dustin, you can beat me.
Honestly, Gen 1 and Sleep just do not mix well for me. He was able to, again, take down my Electabuzz and Flareon due to them falling asleep. Also, this time, Chris did some very smart training where I was under the impression he was going to switch out when it was my Nidoqueen versus his Jolteon, and he was able to do a Pin Missile that hit 5 times to take my Nidoqueen down a lot lower than it should have. If Chris switched, then I would have poisoned his incoming Pokemon, but he kept his Jolteon in, so I poisoned Jolteon and got hit 5 times with the Pin Missile. And again, it came down to the final Pokemon of me having my Dragonite versus his Sandslash, and he had a Lapras in the back, and so I was expecting him to switch into Lapras the second that I had my Dragonite there, so I had used Thunder. Chris decided to stay in and use Slash, so my Thunder did nothing to his Sandslash, and I eventually lost due to that.
Very exciting battle, and I think our last 5 battles, if not more, have gone down to the wire, so this has been a really fun journey between us two rivals here.
Yes, it has, and Chris got that win, and so his chances of picking second for a starter is still well and alive. Now, we will move on to mine versus Dustin's match. And again, sleep and me just do not mix very well.
I can't believe you taught your Pokemon Solar Beam.
Dude, why not? It's good with sleep powder.
Back-to-back crits, wow.
You guys both have fast Pokemon.
Oh, you got the burn though. That's devastating.
And it missed!
Oh, you missed. Oh, dang.
Oh, man. Well, we're tied again. These are close matchups, even though all my Pokemon are very high level.
Wait, how did he get burned again? Was it...
It was Machamp with Fire Blast.
Oh, yes, that's how.
My only fire type move.
Ooh, hit down to the end. Oh, Cloyster.
Yeah. Good game. That was very close.
Dustin got my Flareon and my Nidoqueen to fall asleep, and I couldn't do any damage to most of his Pokemon with those two. Eventually, I did start getting some of the advantage back with my Shenron, the Dragon Knight, but eventually his Hypno and Cloyster were too much for me, and Dustin was able to beat me, thus me losing 2 games again for only the second time of these podcasts.
I think we both got down to our last Pokemon, so I did make quite a few misplays, even though I had the highest levels by far. I'm still not really the best trainer of the group.
Yeah, I didn't. Dustin taught his Machamp Fire Blast. When I had my Kangaskhan out there, he used Fire Blast and it burned my Kangaskhan. And if you don't know, when a Pokemon's burned, it deals less damage with its physical stat. And so because of that, my strongest physical attacker was handicapped when he sent out his last Pokemon, which was the Cloyster, and I couldn't do anything with poor Madame the Kangaskhan. Moving on to the final and most exciting match, the third match, which is Chris versus Dustin. So again, if Chris wins right here, we will force a fourth match, the tiebreaker, which will be, again, just a rematch of Chris versus Dustin.
You know, that's another reason why I added Aerodactyl to the team, is because he's very fast. Nah.
No.
So that was what I was missing last game.
That hurts. That really hurts.
It's like I taught it after Giovanni, sadly. If I taught Fire Blast immediately, we'll have had an easier time.
Dustin's throwing.
I'm throwing as always.
Dang, Chris is getting very lucky with these sings.
It's looking over for me. Oh, man.
Oh, my first time winning too.
Well, I will say, Chris, I think you used 3 sings that time, and they all hit. So Chris did get very lucky that run.
I did.
Will he be able to repeat that success?
I was purposely using Confuse Ray first in case they missed, but I got lucky.
For this match, luck was very much on Chris's side. When I was viewing the match, his Lapras was able to hit 3 sings to make Dustin's Pokemon fall asleep, and then when Dustin's Pokemon fell asleep, they did not wake up in time to do anything. So Chris was able to get a decent amount of Dustin's Pokemon asleep, and he actually was able to pull out the W, which means, if you're doing the math right at home, Chris and Dustin are tied.
This was my first time ever winning 2 battles in any of these Pokemon Showdown, so I'm really disappointed that I had to win a third time just to win anything.
I've only had 2 wins also, so all of us at least swept around. Obviously Sean a lot more, but me and Chris only once heading into this battle. And I did make a lot of misplays too, but it was a very intense match.
Definitely I'm going to take the early game a lot more serious in Generation 2, because after the first 4 gyms, I was 1-7, I believe. So yeah, not too good.
Miraculous comeback, but here we are, the game to decide who is picking their second starter.
See how it goes. Last and final match.
What?
Oh, immune.
Oh, come on, it's a poison type, Chris. So, starting off, I thought Chris was going to throw this game because he started off using Toxic on his Persian against Dustin's Victory Bell. And if you guys don't know, Toxic poisons any Pokemon except Poison-type Pokemon. So he used that. Dustin was able to get the Persian to fall asleep.
Alright, can I just run away with this? Sleep's too powerful this generation. Oh, sleep powder miss.
Finally! Alright, I got rid of one of your sleepers. That makes me feel better.
Oh, it's close games, Chris, but it's looking like I'm coming out on top. Damn.
Oh, I'll keep this alive for a second.
Well, so then this match was also a very, very close match. If you guys haven't been noticing, all these last ones have all been very close. In the end, Chris had his Charizard out, and he was using double team strats, and it just didn't pay off.
There we go. Paralyzed didn't work there.
Oh no!
My starter Pokemon finally came in. Let's go. Ooh, that was a lot. Good games, Chris. That was very difficult.
That is so disappointing. To finally get my first sweep, but then lose the bonus round.
Dustin was actually able to clinch the win using his starter, Pikachu. The Pokemon that we've been saying was his most useless Pokemon on his team, ended up winning it and securing Dustin the second chance to pick a starter.
I'm glad that Pikachu came back in and clutched it for the win. Quite poetic. My first starter Pokemon. I did not use him that much throughout the game, sadly, but I'm glad he was able to come back for the win.
Yeah, all I can say now that we've done all of our Pokemon Showdown battles, I will say congratulations, Sean. You came in guns a-blazing, calling yourself the Pokemon Master, but you did end up winning the most battles, so congratulations.
Thank you, Chris. It kind of sucks at the end there. You guys caught up. Again, I think it was just those sleep strats in this generation that I couldn't recover from. You know, if Dustin having two Pokemon that could cause sleep, Chris with just the one, you know, it's tough.
I like how you say it sucks that we caught up at the end. You literally, for the first 6 gyms, did not have a single loss, so it was only a matter of time. But yeah, you deserve the crown of the Kanto Generation 1 battles, so we'll have to see how it goes with our next season for the Johto battles.
Don't forget normal trainers. Bronze medals are not that bad.
I think they're bad.
When there's only 3, they're kind of bad. So after you beat the Elite Four and become the Pokemon champion, there is one last thing for you to do in the Kanto region. As Sean mentioned, back in Cerulean City, there was a man with an afro that was blocking something. It turns out that is not an afro at all. That's a cave entrance. So now you have access to the elusive Cerulean Cave, where you can find the final boss of Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow. Going into Cerulean Cave, it is quite interesting to note how strong the Pokemon are there. There's a lot of fully evolved Pokemon, such as Arbok, Raichu, Sandslash, Golbat, Parasect, Venomoth, Magneton, Dodrio, Hypno, even a little bit of a chance for a Ditto there. And they're all really strong Pokemon. They're all in the 50s. Once you get a little further down, you also have a chance of finding a Chansey at level 56, which is a great way to level up and train. They give great experience yields.
Did you capture a Chansey?
I did capture a Chansey because after I was struggling so hard in Safari Zone, I knew that we were going to have another chance here. So I just said, I'm going to try and catch it under legit means.
That makes me feel so demotivated after spending all that time in the Safari Zone to capture a Chansey.
Yeah, so I went around and I tried to catch as many Pokemon as I could just to catch up to Dustin. I knew I was never going to fully catch up, but I went around all the Kanto region, collected a few also in Cerulean Cave, and leveled up a little bit too, because this is unfortunately the best place to train, and there's no battles left. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, we'll definitely be going over our final Pokédex tools and maybe some of the other Pokemon caught along the way afterwards, after talking about Cerulean Cave. But in this cave, That is quite interesting. This is kind of like where they had a lot of combination of the puzzles coming together. I believe you had to use strength and surf, and it was very much like a maze. Did you guys have any difficulty going through here?
I did. It took me a little while just because the Pokemon were really strong. And I remember there's one point that I was just starting with my Dragonite, and I used a Repel just because I was getting annoyed with all the Pokemon I was fighting. And then I saw a Ditto, and I was just like, you know what? It's going to transform. I'm going to hit it with Blizzard. Going to instantly die. Of course, Dragonite went first. Blizzard hit. It survived. And then it transformed to Dragonite. I was like, you know, I probably should switch out in case it's faster than me, but what are the odds of that, right? It was faster than me. It used Blizzard, fainted my Dragonite. I got really mad. I remember I had to just save and stop playing for a little bit right there because I was mad that happened, but it took me a decent amount of time to finally get through the entire cave itself.
Oh, that's hilarious. That Ditto, one of the worst Pokemon in the game. If it goes up against the best Pokemon, it has a fighting shot.
I did also end up using repels here, because at this point in the game, I had almost like every Pokemon you could capture. But shall we go into Mewtwo?
Sean, did you use a Master Ball?
Of course I used the Master Ball. We only have one Master Ball. You have to use on the best Pokemon in the game.
Did you use one, Chris?
I didn't use a Master Ball. Did you, Dustin?
I did not. I used my Master Ball earlier on the Poliwag.
What?
What? You didn't share?
That's noteworthy.
I really need a Poliwag. That was one of my last Pokemon. When you encounter Mewtwo, it does say Mew when you first talk to it. Back in the 90s, this could have been a chance where everyone's probably thinking like, oh, this is the legendary Mew. We finally get to capture it only to encounter Mewtwo. So I'm wondering what those type of reactions were back in the day.
I do love that Mewtwo is your final boss here because you go through the entire Pokemon mansion. You hear about cloning this Mew Pokemon and you hear all these stories, but you never see them. And I imagine there's a lot of people who just gave up, who just said, okay, game's over. Like, I'm just going to put it down. And for those couple of kids who kept exploring and decided to go through this cave and find Mewtwo, I bet you that was so cool.
For me, it only took 4 Ultra Balls to capture it. My Victory Bell is a really good Pokemon Hunter Pokemon.
Your Victory Bell? Kind of surprised by that. So Mewtwo in Generation 1, doesn't matter which game you're playing. It's level 70 with Swift, Psychic, Barrier, and Recover. I'm surprised that the AI in Generation 1 didn't take down your Victory Bell with Psychic.
Just one sleep powder and can't do anything.
I struggled a bit more than you guys. This is actually probably the only part of the game I struggled in, was trying to catch this Mewtwo. And I just couldn't set up properly. I'd try and put it to sleep and then weaken it, and then it would wake up, it would use Recover, and it would try and kill me. And it took me probably 5 or 6 resets until finally I got to the point where I got it to sleep at low HP. And I think at that point, it only took 3 Ultra Balls to catch it, but it took quite a few resets because I couldn't set up. Between Recover and Psychic, it just kept killing me. It's a really strong Pokemon. It makes me wonder if it maybe knew something better than Swift or Barrier, how strong it really could be.
When you eventually do capture it, the Pokédex reads, its DNA is almost the same as Mew's. However, its size and disposition are vastly different. Do you guys have Mew's Pokédex entry? Because I did not capture a Mew in this playthrough, so I was thinking this would be a good time to bring that up.
Mew's Pokédex entry in Red and Blue state that it is so rare that it is still said to be a mirage by many experts. Only a few people have seen it worldwide. And then Yellow's Pokédex entry says, when viewed through a microscope, this Pokemon's short, fine, delicate hair can be seen. What the heck? Why is that even notable at all? Like,
so random.
They could have said that for any Pokemon. That could be a Pikachu.
Well, let's save it for the most rare Pokemon to bring that up.
One that not even the Pokemon Hunter of the trainer trio can capture. Well, we caught Mewtwo. I think it's time for one final Pokestats after we caught Mewtwo. Starting off with the times. So let's start off with Chris this time, who had the fastest time previously.
So my time was 33:55. That's my final time. And my final Pokédex number caught was 101.
Wow.
I got over the century mark and I said, that's good enough for me.
Sean?
So my time was 33 hours and 39 minutes. So I just narrowly beat out Chris for the fastest time. Probably because I use a Master Ball instead of Ultra Balls on Mewtwo. And then the total Pokédex is 38 caught Pokemon. I'm proud of that number too.
So if you guys are keeping track, I may not be the fastest Pokemon player. I may not catch the most Pokemon. And I may not be the best battler. That's it.
I'm definitely the one who played the most, so I was the slowest player. I had a lot of time on this game. I played a total of 60 hours and 43 minutes, and my Pokédex total is 128 Pokemon out of the 151 you could theoretically catch in this game. For me, there's only one Pokemon I couldn't actually capture, which was Dragonite. I was trying to level up Dragonair to Dragonite and got Dragonair up to level 50, but I couldn't go over the edge and like keep playing. It was just too much for me. Otherwise, I caught every other Pokemon you could theoretically capture in Pokemon Yellow without trading. So Dragonite was the only one.
Dang, that's crazy.
Did you guys get Porygon?
Nope.
No, because that's only at the game corner, correct?
It is, and I mean, how I ended up getting Porygon, as you can tell from my playtime. I guess just to review, so from the time it took to complete the Elite Four to being the game, took Sean 49 minutes, Chris an hour and 37, and me 11 hours and 13 minutes. One reason for that is because I kept being the Elite Four over and over to train all my Pokemon and to gain enough money. But the thing is that when you start buying all the coins at the game corner, the case can actually get full. You can't get more than 10,000. You can only get 9,999 coins. And I believe Porygon is like 9,999. So the only way I could do that was after I got to 9 less coins. I had to actually play games to win the extra amount because you can't buy more than what's allocated in the game case. So that was a little annoying.
That's really frustrating.
I will read his Pokédex entry for Porygon. It is the only Pokemon people anticipate can fly into space. None has managed the feat yet, however. So that is a cool Pokédex entry. I guess we will find out if there's some Pokemon that can go into space in the future.
In Pokemon Red, its Pokédex entry is, this Pokemon may be known to cause seizures. Beware.
Is that really his Pokédex entry?
No, I just made that up.
I believe before I caught Porygon, the final 2 Pokemon I actually captured to like round out my Pokédex was Psyduck and Lickitung. So those were the 2 final ones before I ended up closing that Pokédex. And then of course Dragonite, which I never ended up obtaining.
So I know Dustin and I filled out our Pokédex on an Excel sheet just to see all the Pokemon we caught and seen. And I'm trying to see if there's any Pokemon between all 3 of us that were not seen or caught at all.
I believe Golem is one of those Pokemon which I really wish they gave to Bruno just so that you can actually see it. Otherwise, that is literally the only Pokemon between all 3 of us. So yeah, Golem is the only one you can't see without trading basically in this generation.
Crazy.
Wow, so that's pretty good. But I mean, obviously Dustin did the heavy lifting on this part, catching and seeing almost every Pokemon. But we basically saw every single one that we pretty much could, and even cheated to see Mew.
Any last minute thoughts before we close out?
One of mine, I know we definitely talked about this outside the podcast, but I don't know if we talked about it in the podcast. One of the craziest things I think of for all of our individual runs to do this is that none of us used a Snorlax. And I feel like Snorlax is such a iconic Gen 1 Pokemon that most people usually use at some point in time during their Gen 1 runs, and we all decided not to use one. I just thought that was pretty interesting.
As the normal trainer, I did think about using a Snorlax, but I wanted to be a bit more original, and I already had an affection towards my Purdy, so I decided not to, but you're right. Every time you read top Generation 1 Pokemon, Snorlax is always at the top.
That's true. I think I used them for a little bit before we got to Koga, but there's just so many Pokemon that you could get in the Safari Zone that I am training them out.
Thank you to my 2 fellow co-hosts, Pokemon Master Sean and Pokemon Hunter Dustin. I mentioned this in our first episode 0 that this has always been a goal or an idea of mine, not necessarily to create a podcast, but to play through some of my favorite games with my friends. So thank you guys so much for joining me on this journey, and special kudos to Dustin too, because you've done a lot of the heavy lifting with editing these episodes and researching softwares to use and everything. So I do appreciate your input on this project.
of course, thank you just for the outlet. So, thank you for everyone for listening. This has been Season 1 of the Trainer Trio, as we bid farewell to the first generation of Kanto. We look forward to seeing you trainers in the brand new region of Johto in our next season, coming up. I have been Dustin, the Pokemon Hunter.
I am Sean, the Pokemon Master.
I have been Chris, the host with the most and the normal trainer.
And we have been the Trainer Trio signing off from Season 1. Catch you in Johto, trainers.
Adios.